You knew I'd choose him if he ever asked, she smirked during dinner with her parents. I didn't respond. Just stood up, thanked her parents for dinner, and left. Packed her things and left them outside the door. Changed the locks. She came home still smirking. Then she saw her stuff in the hallway. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I think, deep down, every man knows when he's a placeholder. We just choose to ignore the signs because the alternative, admitting that the woman you love sees you as an insurance policy, is too painful to look at directly. For 2 years, I was Elena's safe guy. I was the guy who paid the mortgage on the nice 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. I was the guy who funded the self-discovery trips to Bali and Tulum when she decided her marketing job was draining her soul. I was the guy who listened to her vent for hours, who rubbed her feet, who made sure her car was serviced and her fridge was full. I was stable. I was reliable. And according to Elena, I was sweet. But I wasn't Mark. Mark was the ex-boyfriend before me. The legend. The ghost that haunted every corner of our relationship. According to the stories Elena told early on, Mark was a disaster. He was a musician who couldn't hold down a job. He borrowed money he never paid back, and he had a temper that resulted in holes punched in drywall. But when she talked about him, her eyes didn't look angry. They looked alive. He just had this intensity, she would say, staring off into the middle distance while I was literally cooking her dinner. Like, life with him was a roller coaster. It was toxic, sure, but the passion was insane. With you, everything is just quiet. She said quiet, the way you might say stagnant. I tried to compensate. I took her to expensive restaurants. I bought her the jewelry she hinted at. I tried to be more spontaneous. But every time I did something nice, I got a pat on the head, like a golden retriever that had successfully fetched a stick. You're such a good provider, she told me once. Not lover, not partner, provider. The disrespect was subtle at first. She'd take calls from friends late at night and leave the room. She'd make jokes about my job and finance being soul-crushing while spending the money that job provided. But the real issue was that she never truly moved in. She spent every night at my house, ate my food, and used my utilities, but she kept her tiny, overpriced apartment across town just in case. She claimed she needed it for her independence. I offered to let her move in fully, rent-free, so she could save money. I'm not ready to close that door yet, she said. I need to know I have an escape hatch. It's a trauma response from Mark. Everything was about Mark. If I was 5 minutes late, I was disrespecting her time, just like Mark. If I was too attentive, I was smothering her, unlike Mark, who gave me space. I was fighting a ghost, and I was losing. But I loved her. I thought if I just loved her enough, if I was stable enough, she'd eventually realize that peace was better than chaos. I was an idiot. Last Sunday, we went to dinner at her parents' house. I actually got along great with her parents, Martha and David. They were old school, hardworking people who adored me. They knew exactly how much chaos Elena had put them through in her 20s, and they viewed me as the calm after the storm. They looked at me with relief. We were having a roast chicken dinner. The wine was flowing, the mood was light. David was asking me about the market, and Martha was beaming at Elena, clearly happy to see her daughter looking healthy and taken care of. Then, the conversation shifted to the future. So, Martha said, smiling over her wine glass. David and I were talking, and we realized you two have been together for 2 years now. We're so happy for you, Elena. You seem so much more grounded. Elena stiffened next to me. She swirled her wine, staring at the red liquid. Grounded, she repeated, her voice flat. Yes, honey, her dad chimed in. Compared to the last few years. Honestly, compared to that whole mess with Mark. We were genuinely worried about you back then. That boy was a parasite. Seeing you with Opie, it's like night and day. You finally have a real man. The air in the room changed instantly. Elena slammed her wine glass down. Not enough to break it, but enough to make the silverware jump. Can we not talk about Mark like he was a monster? She snapped. Martha looked confused. Elena, he stole from us. He cheated on you. He was awful. He was misunderstood. Elena's voice rose, sharp and defensive. He was an artist. He had passion. He didn't care about 401ks and lawn maintenance and boring suburban polite conversation. He made me feel things. I sat there, frozen. My fork hovered halfway to my mouth. Elena, I said, my voice low. Relax. They're just paying us a compliment. She turned her head slowly to look at me. Her eyes were glassy, likely from the 3 glasses of wine she'd downed rapidly, but the look on her face was sober. It was a look of pure, unfiltered contempt. She let out a short, cruel laugh. A compliment? She sneered. They're complimenting you because you're safe. You're the safe option, OP. You're the guy a girl settles down with when she's tired of being hurt. But don't confuse safe with wanted. Elena, that's enough. Her father warned, his face turning red. She didn't stop. She leaned in closer to me, resting her chin on her hand, a smirk curling on her lips. It was the smirk of someone who believes they hold all the cards. Someone who thinks you are so desperate to keep them that they can say anything. Let's be real, she said, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. You know I'd choose Mark if he ever asked. If he called me right now and said he was ready, I'd be gone. You're great, you're stable, but you're not him. You'll never be him. The room went dead silent. Martha gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. David looked like he was about to have a stroke. I looked at Elena. She was still smirking, waiting for me to do what I always did. De-escalate, apologize for upsetting her, and smooth things over. She expected me to swallow the poison and thank her for it. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't feel the need to fix anything. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I felt nothing. I carefully placed my napkin on the table. I pushed my chair back. The scrape of the wood against the floor was the only sound in the house. I stood up, buttoned my jacket, and looked at her parents. Martha, the chicken was absolutely delicious. David, thank you for the wine. You've always treated me like family, and I appreciate that more than I can say. Opie, wait. Martha stammered, tears in her eyes. I didn't look at Elena. Not even a glance. I'm going to head out now, I said calmly. Where are you going? Elena asked. Her voice wasn't angry anymore. It was confused. The smirk faltered slightly. We drove together. Are you seriously going to leave me here? Don't be such a drama queen. I ignored her completely. I turned and walked to the front door. Opie, she shouted after me. If you walk out that door, don't expect me to be there when you come back crawling. I closed the front door gently behind me. I walked to my car, got in, and drove away. The drive home was silent. I didn't turn on the radio. I just listened to the hum of the tires on the asphalt. My phone started buzzing about 10 minutes into the drive. Elena, 3 missed calls. Elena, you are so embarrassing. Elena, pick up the phone. You left me at my parents'? Are you serious? Elena, my dad is screaming at me because of you. Pick up. I reached over, put the phone on Do Not Disturb, and tossed it onto the passenger seat. When I pulled into my driveway, I looked at the house. My house. The house I bought 3 years ago. The house she had slowly filled with her clutter, her energy, and her disrespect. I walked inside and the silence welcomed me. It felt different this time. It didn't feel lonely. It felt clean. I didn't sit down. I went straight to the kitchen, grabbed a box of heavy-duty black trash bags, and headed up to the master bedroom. I started with the closet. I didn't throw things. I wasn't in a rage. I was methodical. I was a machine. Her designer coats? Bag. The dresses I bought her for the galas she forced me to attend? Bag. The 50 pairs of shoes cluttering the floor? Bag. I moved to the bathroom. Her skincare products, her straightener, her makeup that covered every inch of the counter. All of it went into the bags. I went to the living room. Her books, her throw pillows, her iPad, which I paid for, her framed photos of us. It took me about 45 minutes to erase every trace of her from the interior of the house. By the time I was done, I had 8 large black bags and 2 cardboard boxes. I dragged them all to the front porch. I stacked them neatly next to the door. I didn't want them on the curb. I wasn't trying to ruin her stuff. I just wanted it out of my space. Then, I did the most important part. I went to the smart lock panel on the front door. I pulled up the app on my phone. User, Elena. Status, active. Action, delete user. I heard the mechanism in the lock whereas it reset. I went to the back door and did the same. Then the garage code. I walked back into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of bourbon, the good stuff I usually save for special occasions, and sat down on the sofa. I checked my phone. 25 missed calls. 40 texts. The tone of the texts had shifted. Elena, my dad is driving me home. You better be there. Elena, this isn't funny, Opie. Elena, I'm sorry I said that, okay? I was just drunk. Stop being a baby. Elena, we're 5 minutes away. I took a sip of the bourbon. It burned, warm and grounding. I heard a car pull into the driveway. Headlights swept across the living room window. Car doors slammed. Voices were raised outside. I recognized David's voice. He sounded furious, but not at me. Then, silence. She must have seen the bags. I watched the front door. I couldn't see through the wood, obviously, but I could visualize exactly what was happening. She was standing there, looking at her life packed into garbage bags. The doorknob rattled. It didn't turn. She punched the code into the keypad. Beep. 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 Buzz. She tried it again. Fast, aggressive beeping. Buzz. Then came the pounding. Opie, she screamed. Open this goddamn door. This isn't funny. Open it. I didn't move. I didn't shout back. I just sat there, swirling my drink, watching the door shake in its frame. You can't do this, she shrieked. I live here. Actually, she didn't. She had made a point of reminding me constantly that she had her own place and wasn't tied down. She wasn't on the deed. She wasn't on the utilities. She was a guest who had overstayed her welcome by about 700 days. Up. My dad is right here. Open the door. I heard David's voice then, muffled but audible. Elena, stop it. You did this. Grab your bags. No, she screamed, her voice cracking. He can't just lock me out. Up. Open the door, or I swear to God I'm calling the police. I picked up my phone. I typed one single message. To Elena, you said you'd choose him. Go to him. I hit send. Outside, the screaming stopped abruptly as she checked her phone. A moment later, a heavy thud hit the door, like she had kicked it. I hate you, she screamed, the sound raw and desperate. You are such a pathetic, insecure little man. Mark was twice the man you are. Elena, get in the car, David barked. Now. No. He has to open the door. He's done, Elena, her father said, his voice tired and full of disappointment. Look at the bags. He's done. Get in the car before I leave you here on the lawn. I listened. I heard the sound of bags being dragged across the concrete. I heard a car door open, then slam shut. The engine revved, and the car backed out of the driveway. I sat in the silence of my empty house. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. The next morning, I woke up to a sunrise that felt brighter than usual. I checked my phone. It was a war zone. Elena had moved from anger to bargaining somewhere around 3 a.m. Elena, can we just talk? Please. Elena, I'm at my apartment. The heat isn't working. I miss you. Elena, you're really throwing away 2 years because of one sentence? Then came the flying monkeys, the mutual friends she had recruited to guilt trip me. Jessica, hey Opie, Elena is a mess. She's crying nonstop. Don't you think you're being a little harsh locking her out? Mike, bro, she said she messed up. Just hear her out. I didn't reply to a single one. I didn't block them yet. I just let the messages sit there, unread. It was fascinating to watch the spin machine work. In her version of the story, I was the villain who snapped over nothing and threw a helpless woman onto the street. Around 10 a.m., I got a text from Martha, her mother. Martha, Opie, I am so incredibly sorry. David and I are mortified. We told her she isn't welcome back at our house until she fixes her life. We love you, son. Whatever you decide, we understand. That was the only message I replied to. Me. Thank you, Martha. I appreciate you both. But I'm done. I spent the weekend doing things I hadn't done in months. I went to the gym without worrying about checking in. I ordered the pizza I liked, not the gluten-free cauliflower crust she insisted on. I watched a movie without someone scrolling through TikTok at full volume next to me. I expected her to come back and bang on the door, but she didn't. Monday came, and I went to work. By Wednesday, the tone of her social media shifted. Since I wasn't responding to her texts or her tears, she decided to try and hurt me. She posted a photo on Instagram. It was an old picture of her and Mark from years ago, grainy and dark, with them looking edgy and smoking cigarettes. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to go back to the source to find your fire again. Hashtag passion, hashtag no more boring." She hadn't tagged me, but it was for me. She was doubling down. She wanted me to see it, get jealous, and fight for her. She wanted me to compete with the ghost. I looked at the photo. I looked at the caption. I felt relief. She was someone else's problem now. It took exactly 3 weeks for the fantasy to collide with reality. I didn't go looking for the information, but in a mid-sized town, news travels fast. Plus, Mike, The mutual friend who originally defended her eventually flipped sides when he saw the wreckage firsthand. We met for a beer, and he spilled everything. Elena had indeed gone to Mark. After I locked her out and her parents refused to coddle her, she went to Mark's place. She probably expected a cinematic reunion, the two tortured souls finding their way back to each other, proving that passion conquers stability. The reality was that Mark was 34, unemployed, and living in a basement apartment with two other guys. She stayed there for a week, Mike told me, shaking his head. Apparently, it was a nightmare. Mark didn't want a girlfriend, he wanted a fan. He borrowed $2,000 from her for an investment on the second day. Did she give it to him? I asked, taking a sip of my beer. Yep. Maxed out her credit card. She thought she was investing in his music career, or whatever. It got worse. Mark wasn't just broke. He was still the same toxic narcissist she had romanticized. But without the filter of nostalgia, it wasn't intense. It was just abusive. He made fun of her for being washed up. He flirted with waitresses in front of her. He told her she was too suburban now. The crash came on a Friday night. Elena had tried to stage an intervention about his drinking. Mark responded by laughing in her face, telling her she was acting like a nagging wife, and kicking her out at 2 a.m. so he could bring another girl home from the bar. She called me crying, Mike said. She has nowhere to go. She gave up her apartment lease thinking she was going to move in with Mark or that you'd beg her back. She's sleeping on Jessica's couch. I listened to the story like I was hearing about a stranger on the news. It was tragic objectively, but it didn't hurt. She wants to talk to you, OP, Mike said cautiously. She knows she messed up. She says Mark was a mistake, and she just panicked. She says you're the only man who ever treated her with respect. She's right, I said. I did treat her with respect. And she spat in my face. So no chance. Mike, I said, putting cash on the table for the bill. She told her parents, to my face, that she would choose him. She got exactly what she asked for. I'm not the consolation prize. It had been 6 months. My life had leveled up in ways I hadn't expected. Without the emotional drain of walking on eggshells, my career skyrocketed. I was sleeping better. I looked younger. I had started dating a pediatrician named Sarah, a woman who actually asked me how my day was and listened to the answer. I hadn't heard from Elena in months. I assumed she had moved away or found a new victim. Then came the wedding. It was a mutual friend's wedding, someone I couldn't skip. I knew there was a chance Elena would be there, so I brought Sarah. Not as a shield, but because she was my partner. I saw Elena across the reception hall during the cocktail hour. She looked diminished. She had lost weight, but not in a healthy way. Her hair was brittle. She was wearing a dress that looked a few years old, and she was drinking heavily. She was standing alone near the bar, scanning the room. Her eyes locked onto me. Then they slid to Sarah, who was laughing at something I'd said, her hand resting gently on my arm. Elena's face crumpled. For a second, I thought she was going to run. Instead, she downed her drink and walked straight toward us. I didn't flinch. I turned to face her. Opie, she said. Her voice was raspy. Elena, I nodded. This is Sarah. Sarah, being the class act she is, smiled warmly. Hi, Elena. Nice to meet you. Elena ignored her completely. She stared at me with wet, desperate eyes. Can we talk? She asked. Just for a minute? Alone. I don't think there's anything to say. I replied comfortably. Please, she whispered. I need to apologize. Properly. I need you to know that I know I was an idiot. He was nothing. You were everything. I took it for granted. She reached out, trying to touch my arm. I took a subtle step back, placing myself out of her reach. Elena, I said, keeping my voice low and pleasant. You don't need to apologize. Yes, I do, she insisted, tears spilling over. I miss you. I miss us. I miss the house. I miss my best friend. Everyone makes mistakes, right? Can't we just get coffee? Start over. The audacity was breathtaking. She genuinely thought that because she had failed with Mark, she could just hit the undo button on me. I looked at her, really looked at her. I searched for any anger, any lingering love, any desire for revenge. There was nothing, just a mild boredom. We can't start over, I said softly. Why? She pleaded. Because of her? She jerked her head toward Sarah. No, I said. Because of you. She froze. Elena, you spent 2 years treating me like a waiting room, I said, my voice calm enough to order a coffee. You waited for something better to come along. You got it. You got the excitement, the chaos, the passion you wanted. I didn't want it, she sobbed. I wanted you. No. I corrected her. You want me now because the other option failed. You want safety again. But I'm not a safety net. I'm a person. I took Sarah's hand. I'm happy, Elena. Genuinely happy. And the harsh truth is, my life got significantly better the moment you left it. I don't hate you. I just don't have a vacancy for you anymore. She stood there, mouth open, mascara running down her cheek. She looked small. Take care of yourself, I said. I turned my back on her. OP, she called out, her voice cracking, sounding like a child who had dropped an ice cream cone. I didn't look back. I walked Sarah onto the dance floor. The band started playing, the lights dimmed, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't wondering if I was enough. I knew I was. And she was just a ghost in the crowd, fading away until she was gone completely. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.